Watch.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I call to order meeting number 1791 of the Planning and Zoning Commission at 6:31 p.m. We have a quorum. We have 4 regular members, and I'm seeing, is Tim Moore on the phone? Okay, we have 4 regular members. Frank, I thought I saw you somewhere.
He's in the waiting room. He's coming in now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Give him a minute here.
Should be in good go.
Hi, Frank.
Hi,
Good
I'm here
evening.
finally.
Okay, no problem. Take your time. We need another voting member. Are you willing to serve tonight?
I'm willing to serve, yep.
Okay, terrific. That makes it 5. So we have a quorum. There were 2 legal notices. Let me read those. Get my notes here. East Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, November 24th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. at the East Windsor Town Hall, 11 Rye Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, with the following public hearing to be heard. Application from WSG LLC for renewal of special use permit for earth excavation at 140 Wapping Road. This is in Zone District M1 and A1. A full copy of the application is available on the town clerk's webpage and on the Planning and Zoning Commission's webpage on the town website. All interested persons may appear online and public hearing to be heard on this topic. Dated November 12th, 2020. This appeared in the Journal Enquirer on November 13th, 2020, as well as November 19th, 2020. Second legal notice. East Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, November 24, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. via the remote Zoom conferencing platform. The following public hearing to be heard, re-subdivision application for Christopher Donahue to create 1 lot re-subdivision located at 26 Rye Street in the R2 zone. A full copy of the application is available on the town clerk's webpage and on the Planning and Zoning Commission's webpage of the town website. All interested persons may attend the online meeting and public hearing to be heard on this topic. This appeared in the Journal Enquirer on November 13th, 2020, as well as November 19th, 2020. Are there any added agenda items other than the one that I received from Amanda this afternoon? And that was the zone change application. Is that the other one, Mike?
That's the only ad.
Okay. So there was one added agenda item, and I'll get to that when receipt of applications. It's just a receipt of application. This is the public participation portion of our meeting. Are there any comments from the audience on something that's not already on tonight's agenda? Okay. Next up, approval of minutes, November 10th, 2020. Are there any comments, edits, anything regarding the minutes? And if you're trying to speak, you might be on mute. Well, if there's no comments, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the minutes of regular meeting number 1790, which was the November 10th, 2020 meeting. And the minutes cover, 16 pages.
There's a motion for approval by Ann. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Frank. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. Either say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Yes. We have 5. That's an approval. Next up, receipt of applications. There was one application for zone change
Okay.
for David Mason at 87 South Main Street for a zone change from a TZ5 R3 and A1 to TZ5 and A1. The public hearing is scheduled to be held on December 8th, 2020, and there will be some upcoming legal ads in the Journal Enquirer. Moving along to new public hearings. Item A, WSG LLC, special use permit renewal for earth excavation at 140 Wapping Road. Deadline for decision, January 14th, 2021.
All right, hello everyone. Merrick Kemet with Barton and LaJudas, formerly Anchor Engineering. Also on tonight is Adam Westhaver, the applicant, with as a member of WSG LLC. A few housekeeping rules. We do have submitted the certificate of mailing as well as an affidavit for the sign posting, which should be in the file that was submitted earlier today. The application before you is a special use permit renewal for an earth excavation at 140 Wapping Road. The permit was initially approved in November 13th of 2018 with the last renewal date of December 10th of 2019. And we are requesting a 3-year permit renewal for this application. Just a project recap, the property is 48 acres roughly, with the railroad running on a western edge. Also, this property is split between 2 zones, the M1 zone, which is located on the westerly end, as the A1 zone being on the east end of the property. If you recall, last year we did, this was brought into phases. Phase 1 was primarily the installation of the scale house, the access roads, the drainage structures for the site, and then Phase 2 was the actual earth excavation, which we are currently in today. In your packet, we had submitted an as-built plan. It's dated October 29th of this year. And in this, on this plan, what I did was I actually added the limit of disturbance as of October 20th, which was the survey date, as well as the limits of disturbance that was performed last year of October 8th, 2019. So you can see the difference between last year and this year. Also in your packet should be photographs that were taken by a drone to, I believe sometime in late October, I think it was October 29th possibly of this year, showing the, or visual showings of the site activity. We did receive a memo, I should say an email from the town planner yesterday outlining a few concerns that he had. And during the last renewal back in 2019, we didn't realize we had any issues. We were dealing with Ruben at the time, and there are a few items that Mike had brought up that I think should be discussed further tonight. With that, I will leave it for questions. We can probably pick away at it that way. And once again, I do have Adam Westhaver here to answer any technical questions for the site activity.
So before we get into some of the technical items that Merrick had reference to from Mike D'Amato's correspondence with the applicant's engineer, does anyone have any, from the Planning Zoning Commission members, do you have any preliminary comments for Merrick or Adam?
No, no, I don't have any. I just want to hear what has to be said with regard to the concerns that Mike had.
Agreed.
I'd also be curious if there have been complaints from the neighbors.
So why don't we have, Mike, do you mind kicking us off here and leading off the discussion regarding some of the comments you had? In the appropriate time, I'll ask Merrick or Adam to weigh in as appropriate.
Yeah. And so what I did is I tried to go through the file and follow the approvals and the various conditions, because obviously this is a renewal, so there were things that were in place prior to. and I went through and pulled out most of what I thought was applicable and kind of tried to lay out what I thought the file demonstrated. So for some of these, and in my when I forwarded this to Merrick, after I sent it to you guys, I said, this is what I think the file shows. I'm not suggesting this is all set in stone, and so hopefully through this conversation we'll be able to figure out where things stand. But these are the conditions that were on the permit that is being requested to be renewed today. So, I guess I can go through them very quickly. There were 2 conditions related to bonding. And after speaking with Len, the town engineer, he confirmed those were related to phase 1. There was a condition that required an as-built drawing to be submitted to the ZEO 6 months from the permit to demonstrate compliance. I did not find that, but again, it's possible that it was submitted. So those are, all these things we can talk about. There was a requirement that each phase be completed and stabilized before a new phase is opened. And that bonding shall be required for each phase, and that no phase shall begin until a previous phase has been substantially completed. And they want evidence of compliance for those phases. Those are the first chunk of the yellow at the top. And a lot of this obviously has to do with reclamation and making sure they don't get too far ahead of themselves so we don't end up with things not where they should be. So at this point, and I made some notes, he's indicated they're in phase 2. So, what we really want to make sure of is that if the bonds that we have in place are for phase 1, if phase 1 is substantially complete, then we figure out what bonding is required for phase 2 if it's not in place. And again, I did see the two bonds. They're both there for different amounts and different types of bonds. But I didn't see anything that indicated it was for phase 2. As far as the general conditions, a lot of them are not applicable to the renewal. Final grading shall conform to plans. Something like that is not a performance standard we're going to measure right now. But towards the bottom, the georeference color aerial imagery of the image of the project site. So he provided that. It didn't have a date, so it may have been sent when he may know the date, and we just need to verify that and include it. So that's a pretty simple one. And then the electronic activity reports of the truck activity at the very bottom. I see some of the historic ones, but I didn't have the most recent. So if that was something that was emailed to Ruben, it may just be again something we need to provide or just add to the file. But basically, the outstanding items that I'm hoping Merrick can address relates to the phases, which is on the conditions prior to permit issuance.
Mike, before we have Merrick kind of go over some of those, are you aware of any complaints in your brief time with us as interim town planner? Has your office been contacted?
I am not personally aware. What I'm going to do is go back through the reports that I have from Ruth just to see while Merrick is presenting if there's anything pending, and if there's something on there, I'll bring that up in a bit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Merrick, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you.
All right, so we'll pick it apart a little bit here. Regarding the as-built that was required 6 months from the permit to demonstrate compliance, we thought that was resolved last year, with the process in 2019 with Ruben. In any event, an as-built was provided during that renewal application anyways. So we think at this point that was met. I know it wasn't 6 months according to the condition, but it was submitted as well as an updated one for this application before you. Unfortunately, we can't go back in time to get you an as-built that happened 6 months, but during that first 6 months is when phase 1 was actually being constructed. You have the access drive that was put in, you have the scale house that was installed as well with the drainage. So in that time, that's what would have been on that as-built, and there would have been probably no site activity, and Adam can probably attest to that.
Yes.
Regarding bonding, I'll let Adam take that one when I give him the floor. The phases, once again, phase 1 was primarily for getting the site ready to work, and phase 2 was actual start of the activities. So maybe Adam can also address that one, but I don't think we can close phase one because we need the access roads, we need the scales and a drainage structure, which is part of that. And
Correct.
Right, so that's where that lies. The other one was the drone or the geo image for the ArcGIS. Once again, I wanted to get you something for this application. So we did fly a drone out there and we did get some photographs just to give you the visual impact of the site activity. If we need something different for the future applications, then we can get some more clarity on that. But I know Mike D'Amato was kind of thrown with this application, and I think I did raise that question early on, and it was just unclear of exactly what Ruben had installed or this commission had installed for that condition. And finally, I think the activity reports for the trucks, once again, Adam can probably explain that one better than I can. So at that point, Adam, if you want to take the floor.
Yeah, for the electronic reports, we submitted those to Ruben prior to. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, all right, good.
Yep.
So I can resubmit them to Mike. That's no problem. They're electronic copies, and I can forward those to you tomorrow, Mike. If you're missing any, that's not a problem at all. In terms of, we'll swing back to the phase one. I think Merrick already reiterated that. We can't really close out that area because that's where the trucks are coming in and going out, and that's the actual roadway and the environmental, the ponds and all that stuff for the runoff. So obviously we want to keep that in for the duration of the project, so that's there. So we really can't close that phase out. I can't take it and topsoil it and all that stuff. So it'll be closed at the end of the project. And in speaking with Len, and we can kind of figure out what we want to do with this, Mike. We were talking about rolling over the performance bond instead of pulling it out and then resubmitting it back in and pulling it out and resubmitting it back in.
Yep.
Just having that constant bond there for the duration through each phase. If that's fine with the group or yourself, if that makes sense to you, we can continue on that. If you want to change that perspective, we can do that as well.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think from a housekeeping perspective, it's easier than us having to release a phase one bond and then ask you for another bond. We'll have to figure out what the amounts are, because if phase one has to remain open, we'll have to figure out what of the total amount that we have has been completed and what's excess that can be rolled, because I don't want to use the same chunk of money and apply it to multiple phases.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we can do is kind of come up with that list, and then if there's a balance, then that can be, I think, applied to phase two, so that we don't have this money coming in and out each time.
Right. And that's what Leonard talked about too, because he had gone through, he rolled through with his car, he took a look at everything, he was happy with everything. And this was about, I'm guessing a year ago or so. So nothing really was talked about after the fact that when he went through in his car. So I think that hits those 3 questions right there, or 4 questions for the compliance on the phases, correct?
Adam, have you personally been contacted regarding any complaints?
Yeah, I think, you have the occasional call in for a truck, which we had talked about before. I can't control all the trucks that roll through the public streets, but we do tell all of our guys to stay on the Windsorville Road through to Route 5. Occasionally you may have a guy drive over a road, but I can assure you I'm immediately called and notified, and we will tell that driver, do not go off to a different road, or we recommend that they don't go off onto those roads. We can't control that, but we push them to conform to what the town wants us to do.
I saw some signs, I don't know if they belong to your operation or not, at the corner of Windsorville and Graham Road. Say quarry, where I don't know if it's quarry or excavation, go to the right. So not sending vehicles down on Graham Road. So I don't know if that's related to your operation or not, but there are signs they're pulling through to make sure they're not using Graham Road. And this is in the Broadbrook area.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any that were up there, but if that keeps our guys on the right track, then that's good.
Yeah, they were there as a few days ago.
Okay, I'll have to
Yep.
check. I'll have to check with my foreman out on the site.
Joe, those were put in by the town.
Okay. Very good. So why don't we pause here? Are there any comments from the commission members for either Merrick, Adam, or even Mike? So why don't we go around, keep this orderly. Frank, let's start with you. Do you have any questions?
There seems to be a mix-up, at least in my mind, between the previous town planner and Mike. And it seems that between Adam and Merritt, that they kind of got it figured out. I don't see any problems. I think it can be resolved. His concerns, if they haven't already been resolved, I think they can be resolved administratively. And I don't have any concerns right now.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Ann?
I don't have any concerns. I do look forward to getting the documentation with the town in order so we can proceed.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, as I understand it, we've just got two outstanding issues. We need to have the verification that there's adequate bonding, and the activity reports need to be submitted. But those are the only things that I see that are outstanding for this.
And Jim?
The drone photos, I think that's what the commission is looking for. Just a snap in time, an aerial photograph high above, so we can kind of see what's going on in the pit area. I think these are a step in the right direction.
Yep.
Okay. And Mike, do you have any questions that haven't been already answered? As we
No, I think that kind of, they did answer some of the questions. I think that, yeah, from my perspective, you know, there are some conditions on here which aren't entirely clear from anyone's perspective. And I think it made it hard for everybody to figure out where compliance was. And so as I worked through some of these, you know, I'm not suggesting they were in violation, just again, hoping that we would get the information. So the most recent activity report, if they could get that to me, that would be great. We'll add that to the file. And then I think between now and the next meeting, we'll work on figuring out exactly what items within the existing bond are completed and therefore that money is available, and what type of bonding would be required for the second phase. And then for the next meeting, we'll have an idea of what the balance is as the commission starts talking about conditions. I agree the aerial, the drone photos are good. All I need to know is the date it was taken. I don't need anything overly scientific. So just a confirmation that I can put on the photo that says this is when it was taken. And I agree. I don't know if it was previous approvals for this application or others, but you guys have had language about GIS photos and all kinds of other things that have been tied to using ArcGIS. We don't have ArcGIS in every computer in town hall, and so the drone photos make the photos far more accessible, either to use in the field or if we're printing them out to provide to you. So my preference would be to use the drone photos because I think it makes it so that everybody can look at the same document without having to have some special software. So I don't have anything that I feel they haven't addressed. I know that I did see some complaints previously, but as far as relatively recently, I haven't been able to go back to touch base with Ruth, but I don't, at this point, just because I don't know where things are going to go, you know, if you guys are going to keep this to the next meeting, because we'll figure out if there's any other issues that have come in recently that we need to speak about.
in fact, Mike, we don't have a motion for approval for you tonight.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. I didn't feel comfortable not knowing where this conversation would go to suggest that there were outstanding items. And oh, by the way, let's consider approval. And based on the fact that their permit is not dead while they're here, right? They're still able to operate. So
Correct.
I felt like it made sense to just take the extra time.
Okay.
Mike, I'd be interested when you get a chance to talk to Ruth if the complaints are concerning hours of operation in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
'Cause it
I,
sounds
I
like-
will. Yeah, I know
I'll
that-
get you Laurie in a second.
I know that we have some of the, I know I have some of Ruben's old sort of reports, and he kind of left some of the stuff that was outstanding when he left the town, so we can go through that. If you want me to be able to put those things in front of you at the next meeting and potentially have Merrick and Adam talk about them, which I think would be good, then I'm sure, as you know, we'll just have to keep the hearing open so that we can have that discussion, but I'm happy to look at that for the next meeting.
Okay. So with that, this is a public hearing, and I'm sure there's comments from the audience. And Laurie, did you have your hand raised? Would you like to speak? Yeah.
I just wanted to know if they could if First Selectman could go over the complaints that were submitted by Ted Aerosmith, my neighbor. I wanted to hear specifically how the complaints were worded and what was the nature of the complaints. I also had my own noise and trucks. In June 9th, I made a complaint about the noise. There's been a vibration noise, like maybe it's from compacting. I don't know. I can feel it and hear it in my home. I'm 15 Morris Road, Lori Suzik. And on September 2nd, there was truck complaints, but those have been resolved as far as I know. But those are times I was still home from work. In June, I was home because of the COVID. And the summer, I wasn't here, so I wasn't noticing. But I know Mr. Smith had submitted complaints, and I was interested to know what the nature of those were.
So Mike, have you made communication with the First Selectman's office to see what he may have in his file? I see Jason, you have your hand raised. Go right ahead. If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. So despite the background behind me, I'm actually at home, not in my office. So I don't have the documentation here, but in swapping some private messages with Mike D'Amato during this conversation, I did share with him that I've probably had, if I'm ballparking it, I'm saying I probably had 10 independent complaints about this facility since taking office a year ago. Those complaints have included concerns about vibrations, about noise, about frequency of truck trips on Morris Road, about misdirected trucks on Morris Road, which is that's what prompted the installation of the signs by the town directing to the gravel pit. There have been numerous spot checks by our interim zoning enforcement official. And without my notes in front of me, that's my recollection. I think that certainly provides at least an illustration of what's going on.
So Laurie, to your direct question, I don't know if Jason has that information regarding what your neighbor has actually complained about, but that's our best recollection of the story. Do you have any other questions or comments at this time?
I don't know if Jason can give out that information, if that's privileged information.
No, complaints are public record.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Laurie, do you have any questions? Any more questions?
I don't. My neighbor isn't attending tonight, and he said Jason had his complaints, so I was interested just to hear.
Okay.
What they were.
Yeah,
I guess
and I apologize for not having a play-by-play, but I think that's a fair representation of the concerns that have been expressed, at least to me in my capacity. I don't know about to the planning office in particular, but certainly those, I have certainly reflected the sentiment of what has been represented to my office.
Okay. All right.
And Laurie, as you've been
I
listening to
appreciate
some of the
appreciate
dialogue here, we're not going to be closing the public hearing tonight. So there's some more information we're going to be collecting as we try to make an informed decision moving forward.
Okay. I appreciate the town putting up the sign on Morris Road. The truck traffic has definitely improved. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience regarding this application? Okay. Merrick and Adam, I'm going to turn it back over to you. So it looks like staff as well as the commission are just seek some additional information, probably, as you already talked about, information that was submitted to the previous town planner who's no longer here. So there is that awkward period regarding our files are not complete. So I think it would just help present a complete story for Mike and us. If you guys could kindly just kind of resubmit some of that paperwork. So Mike has a complete file as we move forward in our deliberation here.
No problem.
Yeah, and yeah, we plan on that, and I'll probably be talking with Mike and Len, coming up with the bond estimates, and we'll be having some dialogue in the next couple of weeks. So yeah.
Okay.
What I can try to do is work with Ruth, and we'll work with the first selectman's office to try to get us a summary of the complaints that we do have, to try to see if, boil down what the issues are. And then we'll give those to you guys, Merrick and Adam, so you can look at them so that you have an idea of what we're dealing with. And if there's any solutions that we all can put our heads together and come up with. So we'll try to pull that together sooner versus later. So we have that.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mike. I'll get that stuff over to you tomorrow.
Sounds great.
We're going to leave the public hearing open, but are there any final comments from the members of the commission? If not, we'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to the next meeting, which is December
8th.
8th.
I'll move to continue the application PZ 2020-16 WSG LLC special use permit renewal for earth excavation at 140 Wapping Road, map 017, block 65, lot 008-034 in a A1 and M1 zone until our next meeting, December 8th, 2020.
Motion by Ann to continue the public hearing to December 8th, 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Frank. Any discussion? Here are none. A call for vote. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
I see 5 hands. See you gentlemen in 2 weeks and happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Thank you, Lori. Next up under new public hearings, a re-subdivision application for 26 Rye Street for Christopher Donahue for a 1-lot re-subdivision. And the deadline for decision, January 14th, 2021. Jay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Jay Ursary, J.R. Russo and Associates here representing Chris Donahue with regard to this re-subdivision application. I think Chris may be the person that's on the line there. We're not together this evening. We had planned to do this from my office, but I am quarantining from home due to COVID. So we weren't able to do what we originally had planned to do, but I am here anyway, and we'll walk you through the application. This is a subdivision. It's located at the southwest corner of Rye and Old Ellington Road, essentially across the street from the elementary school and just down the street from the town hall. And it's a 1.87 acre parcel. It's in the R2 zone. And let me share screen here with you. Let me give this a whirl. Okay, I'm going to have Jason allow me to share the screen.
Should be good now, Jay.
Okay, thank you. All right, can everybody see this?
Not yet.
Not
No.
yet. All right, let's try it again. I have my technical consultant, my young son, coming to my assistance as we speak. So we
Jay,
need-
you've always been very resourceful, so whatever it takes.
He helped you
Here we
last
go.
time.
Here. How about now?
Yes.
There it is.
Here we go. We have success. So here's our key map, page 1. Here's the site, Old Ellington here, if you can see my cursor. Rye Street, school here, town hall, essentially over here. And let me go to the next sheet. And what we have here essentially, and I think everybody's pretty familiar with this parcel. There's an existing ranch home with a garage that's located on the corner, and there's a very large gray tobacco shed, and that building is located right here. What we're looking to do here in this particular zone is cut out a new lot, which would be located here in your R2 zone. That requires 25,000 square feet, and I'm looking down at my plan here to my left. A 25,000 square foot lot that would be a new home that at this point Chris is thinking about building a new home there for himself. We have all the utilities available. We have sanitary sewer, we have water, we have gas that are all available in Old Ellington Road and would be able to serve this particular parcel. So the new lot would be located here, and it's been essentially minimum size, meets your requirements in terms of square footage, frontage, and so forth, setbacks for a home. The one thing that I'm going to share with you is that when we looked at this parcel in terms of looking at your zoning data, one of the things that it didn't meet was the coverage for buildings. This barn is very large. And when we looked at the whole thing and plopped the new house on there, we found that we didn't meet the building coverage and we needed a variance. So we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals earlier this month, and they granted a variance to allow us some additional coverage, essentially about 3.4%, so that the barn could remain. And it wouldn't even be the whole barn. What we would have had to have done is cut off about 60 feet of it. And the reason we didn't want to do that is that it's a barn that's in pretty good condition. It's being used by Chris. And when we went back and looked at some of the historical photos, we found that on the Yukon Magic website, I can go back to 1934 and look at aerials. And this barn was there in 1934, exactly as it sits today. And it's still there. And it seemed a shame to cut part of it off. The ZBA agreed, granted the variance. So other than that, it meets all the criteria that's in your current zoning requirements for the R2 zone. You, I think, have a memo from Len Norton indicating that he's essentially comfortable with the application. We have to provide some more details in terms of the sewer connection, which goes out to the intersection of Rye and Old Ellington, which actually we've already done. We didn't submit revised plans yet, but some of the WPCA details in terms of getting into that manhole with the sewer connection for the new house. The existing house is already connected. And we also asked for some waivers in terms of this application. And those equate to, as we've talked about in some applications in the past, section 6.3, which is sidewalks, and 6.5, which is streetlights. I think the streetlight waiver is fairly simple. There's no new streets here. These are all existing roads. And the sidewalk waiver, I'm sure we're going to talk about. If we look at the, and I'll tell you now before we start, if we look at the lot, it's got substantial road frontage between Rye Street and Old Ellington. There's about 803 feet of road frontage. So if we were looking at sidewalks on both streets, we'd be looking at about 800 feet of new sidewalk to be installed. So I'm sure we'll have some discussion about that. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward. We're looking at a fee in lieu of for open space, although at this point, Chris is intending on building a home there for himself, so that wouldn't apply. But we want to talk about it. So if he decides down the road that he's not going to do that and sell it, or I believe the way the statute's written, and Mike might want to chime in on this, if it's sold within a certain amount of time after that, I think that you are also required to pay the fee in lieu of. And there's a time period there, and I don't recall exactly what that is. It might be 3 years that the fee would still be required to be paid to the town if Chris built, moved in, and then moved out rather quickly, I guess you might say. So that's essentially the overview and gist of the application. Like I said, I think it's fairly simple. In terms of the housekeeping items, the signs were posted, mailings were sent out for the public hearing. I have all that information, and I believe Lee from our office probably sent it all over to Amanda at the planning office, so I think she has it. But other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a few, but I'll go last. So we'll change the order here. How about Jim? Do you have any questions for Jay?
On the basic project, no. On the sidewalks, I usually love sidewalks, but I think in this case, the sidewalks down Rye Street are going to go to nowhere because all those residential lots, they're not going to continue the sidewalks down the road, obviously, because there's already houses there. So on the sidewalk issue, I don't think they're necessary, to be honest with you. That's all I have.
Okay, my comments also about sidewalks, but I'll defer until everyone has a chance to speak. Excuse me, Mike.
Yeah, I guess I'll continue kind of down that same avenue. But my understanding is that we've been kind of migrating more towards a fee in lieu of where a sidewalk doesn't make sense to serve the public rather than just an out-and-out waiver of the requirement. So that's something that I'd like to see if that's considered.
Any other comments regarding the application or the site?
No, the rest of it is pretty straightforward.
Okay. Frank, how about you?
I agree with Jim Thurs. I'm not a big fan of sidewalks, as you know, and especially here, as he said, a sidewalk going nowhere is useless. And I don't know about the fee in lieu of. I don't know. I haven't seen that in the statutes, or I guess we're trying to go that way. But
Well, it's a gray area. It's in our subdivision regulations, and
yeah,
I'm sure we're going to have that conversation with Jay in a few minutes.
yeah, not really a subdivision. And where's the curb cut? I can't see. My glasses aren't too good. How's he getting into this house?
So on Rye Street here, Frank, there would be a new curb cut located here, if you can see my cursor on your
I got it.
screen.
Yep.
And the new house would be here. Now, obviously, this is conceptual. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be flipped and maybe the garage were on this side, or maybe it's a front load garage. You know, when it comes time to doing an actual plot plan, it could change, but the curb cut would be off of Rye Street to gain access to this. And I guess while I'm talking here, one thing that I did forget to tell you is that right now there's some existing storm drainage on Rye Street. There's a catch basin here, and there's a basin here, and there's a pipe that leaves and goes westerly to a basin that's located in kind of in the low point or the hollow down on Old Ellington. It then goes under the road and gets into a intermittent water course. And we weren't able to find any easements or anything on that based on our research, online research in the land records. And it starts off on this particular property and then appears to veer off onto the neighbors. But what we were showing here is a proposed drainage easement in favor of the town of East Windsor down along the side of our property, so that if some point in time this needed to be relocated or repaired, at least the town had the right to go in and do the work without having to go back to the property owner and ask for rights, although they're probably there and prescriptive, but we showed that, and that would be part of this.
Can't hear you, Jay.
Jay, you just faded out the last 4 or 5 words.
So anyway, I guess we added a proposed drainage easement in favor of the town so that at some point in time, if this pipe needs to be replaced and relocated, the town would have the right to go in and do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mike,
Go
I
ahead.
see that you have your hand raised. Was it regarding this topic we're talking about?
Yeah, I just kind of also noticed, so you're also creating a utility easement because you're feeding it through the back of the property across from Old Ellington?
That's correct. There would be easements that would be in favor of that actually Chris Donahue would be giving to himself to allow us to connect to the water from Connecticut Water, the gas, and as well as the sanitary sewer at the intersection to serve this lot. The lot is located in the sewer service area, and the utilities are available. So he's desirous of connecting all these utilities rather than putting in a well and so forth. He thought he would be better with the city water and the gas and the sewer, which I would agree with. So certainly he can do that.
So I take it they're not available on Rice Street themselves.
No, it does not go down Rice Street. Although quite honestly, when we started, I thought the water did, but it doesn't. It ends right at the intersection.
Okay.
Frank, did you have any more concerns?
No, I'm all set. I'm fine.
Okay. Ann, you're up.
Well, I see it as a good location for a sidewalk because it's so close to the school and there's kids in that area. It would get them out of walking in the road, and if you had a crossing guard at the corner, they could cross the street. I don't know if there's kids in the area, and I don't know if the town has a crossing guard, but I see it as a prime location to start sidewalks if the town has the willingness and desire to continue them. And that's something I don't know.
If I might say, I think just the opposite. If you put them in, you're encouraging kids to walk in there to go nowhere and only endangering them more. And I go by there frequently and I don't see any young children walking that street.
No, I haven't either, but that close to the school, you would think that they're prime walkers to school as opposed to a school bus being that close to the school.
I'm not so sure there's walkers that walk to school from there in that area.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that for a fact, but I suspect there isn't.
So I guess my turn. So we're going to continue this conversation regarding sidewalks. And a while back, the town made application to a state agency for a grant to install sidewalks, continue their sidewalk program and enhance sidewalks. And Mike D'Amato, are you familiar with that application? And actually, I think there's a little bit of survey work that maybe that the applicant's engineer is maybe worked on a little bit. Are you familiar with that one, Mike?
I've heard about it. I'm not familiar enough to talk about it, but if we're talking about sidewalks, I'd like to put in a little piece of opinion on my end if you're willing to listen.
All right, just a minute. Hold
Sure.
your thought. So hey Jay, was your firm involved in the survey work?
Yeah, I am
for that
familiar
grant?
with it. Yeah, I am familiar with it. The town did receive a grant, and they will be installing sidewalks essentially from the intersection of this particular location on the north side, which some of the walk is already in, going easterly on Old Ellington up to Windsorville, and then crossing Windsorville and continuing easterly down Reservoir all the way to Skinner Road, which will take you up to the park, the dog, I think, yeah, the dog park, the town garden area. Right now, we're looking at putting the walks on the north side of the road, which would be the side that the Reservoir Park is on. And they would stop at Skinner, I believe it is. Then it continues and picks up over on Depot and runs back westerly from the intersection of Depot and Skinner, coming back to the center of Broadbrook all the way to the center of town. So that grant was approved, the money's in place, design is underway, and that will be completed. So it essentially kind of gives you, I guess, a loop, if you will, that gets you out to the park, from the center of town and beyond the park to the Skinner Road area. And then again on Depot Street from Skinner Road back down to the center of town. So that said, I'm going to kind of go where Ann was. I was a little torn with this whole thing, to be honest. The school is right across the street, but I think Commissioner Thurs kind of made a good point, and I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks, and I thought about this, and maybe I should have said it, but as we go south from this property, we've got older homes that are located on the same side of the road as this, on the west side. There's probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 older homes. And then we get to St. Catherine's Cemetery, which has substantial frontage. So could we put a sidewalk here in front of this? Yeah, you could. And it would get you 300 some odd feet of sidewalk. But unless the town were to get another grant or there would be funds available, the likelihood of it going any further is probably not likely. Like I said, there's older homes, there's no more room to subdivide. And then you have the cemetery, which has got many hundreds of feet of frontage before you get beyond that. And I think you got a couple of other older homes, and then you get into the subdivision that was done by Gaetan Letourneau, which is part of, I can't remember the name of the street. It cuts over to Norton Road. You get into that particular area where, again, I don't believe there's any sidewalks. So it's kind of it's a difficult decision. I don't know which way I would go if I were sitting there on the table with you folks, but maybe the fee in lieu of is the better way. I'm not sure.
So Jay, thank you for filling in the details. This connectivity grant, which was granted to the town, that was one of the very last things that our former town planner, Lauren Witten, had put together. And she consulted me regarding some ideas that I had, being kind of in the business, understanding pedestrian movements, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we had talked about different areas in town where it made sense. And that ultimately it was the town's decision to move forward on exactly what Jay had talked about. And other areas were considered, but they thought that this was a higher priority. And the section that we're talking about really didn't come up in conversation because it wasn't really used by all that many pedestrians compared to other areas. But Jay is correct. I mean, these grant, actually, there's another solicitation for a grant that's going on right now. And I guess the town could apply for additional funds for some other location. But regarding this one, my personal feeling is I don't think sidewalks along this applicant's frontage are worthwhile to the community. I really don't. But at the same time, the way I read the subdivision regulations, the provision says every subdivision in East Windsor shall make provisions for sidewalks and/or trails, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't allow us not to have some provisions for like a fee in lieu of. So that's the road, that's the direction I like to head in fee in lieu of. So I'm going to pause here. And I'm going to kind of open up. Anyone else have any comments regarding this particular topic or continuation of this particular topic regarding sidewalks?
Not me.
I agree with the fee in lieu of.
I like the fee in lieu of. If that's possible.
Yeah, do we have a mechanism to calculate that?
Absolutely. It's already in. It's in section 6.3.5 in the subdivision regulations. It's very clear. Yep, there's
then we
a section.
Then I think that's the alternative that we've been given, that we can make that discretionary decision.
All right. Well, we haven't heard from Mike. Mike said he has some ideas. So go ahead, Mike. The floor is yours.
I guess not so much ideas. I just want to make it clear and I don't know, maybe you'll say, Mike, duh, we get it. But just to be clear, the only sidewalks or fee in lieu that we have jurisdiction over are related to the 150 feet of the new lot. So if you guys decided you wanted him to build sidewalks, there would be nothing on the parent parcel. And so if you look in my memo, the reason why I state that the waiver is appropriate is because I agree with the comments. 100 and something feet of sidewalk in the middle of nowhere doesn't do anybody any good. And so I felt like it's the maintenance issue for the town and that the waiver is appropriate. It just sounds like what you guys are talking about as well. For the purposes of anybody listening, I wanted to make sure that they knew we weren't debating frontage on both Rye and Old Ellington.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that'd like to has a comment regarding this re-subdivision application? Okay. So Jay, do you want to have a conversation with the landowner at some time regarding how to proceed regarding the sidewalk issue? I think without having a straw poll here, there seems to be not enough momentum moving forward to actually require sidewalks. And I know that you've made a request, but I'm leaning the fee in lieu of installation method for the 150 feet, as Mike alluded to.
I think from the applicant's standpoint, the fee in lieu of is what we would be in favor of. We did discuss it a little bit. I agree. I don't think it makes sense to put in a small piece of sidewalk that doesn't go anywhere, or quite frankly, even if we were to put sidewalks along the whole frontage of the entire parcel, it still doesn't really go anywhere. But as Mike pointed out, I guess it actually does really apply to the new lot only. And I think the fee in lieu of to be able to use that monies where it's appropriate somewhere else in town is probably the smartest thing to do. And the applicant and myself, I think, are certainly in favor of that.
Okay. Does anyone have any exceptions to the other waivers that the applicant is requesting?
None, I'm good.
I'm okay. I'm good.
So are we going to need to modify terms and conditions?
Yes. When we get to that point, I think Mike has prepared a motion for approval, but we would have to include some language for the fee in lieu of.
Yeah, so I put together, based on what we had, the other piece of information that's changed since the memo went out is last week we had a memo from the WPCA which said the following information should be provided, and we got something additional from Art, I believe yesterday or maybe the day before, that said that he was considering that he had everything he needed and that we should consider it approved on there. And so I haven't modified my memo at that point because I was expecting them to have a conversation with WPCA. So those two pieces are missing. And if you note at the top, it's, those are the items for consideration. So you could add those in now. or I can draft something if you're not comfortable on the fly for the next meeting. It's up to you.
Jay, how urgent or what is the applicant's timeline regarding?
I don't know that there's any real urgency here, and your next meeting, quite honestly, isn't that far away. You know, we're looking at the second Tuesday in December, so if you're more comfortable with Mike putting the motion together so you have it in front of you, I don't know that that's a real issue for the applicant here. And Chris, if you're on the line, I think you are, it's time for you to chime in.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
We can wait till December 8th if you want. That's fine.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the input.
Sure.
So, members of the commission, go ahead.
No.
Okay, just some
Okay.
feedback. So members of the commission, we have a couple options here. Obviously, we're not going to move forward tonight. Should we leave the public hearing open also? So just in case some additional information comes up, we have the opportunity to discuss it with the applicant or Jay? I would prefer that.
Yeah, can't hurt.
Okay. Very good. Okay, is there anything else we want to talk about regarding this application? So Mike, are all your other concerns okay? Am I hearing any concerns from members of the public or fellow commission members? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, so some of the stuff that I had talked about, we talked about the street lights, the sidewalks, the fee, and then the only other little piece there was talks about street trees, and I'm asking the commission to consider the street trees that are there because I think the existing established trees are worth more than some small little maple they're going to plant in the ground later. So I don't have any concerns. I will modify the motion now that we have all this information and what we just heard from the owner related to the fee in lieu and get something to you guys for the next meeting.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, Jay?
I guess the only question I have is in years past, the fee in lieu of has always been $2,000 per lot. I don't know that that's changed, but I guess just the question is it still at 2,000?
You want me to take that?
Yes, could you kindly?
So the regulations, the subdivision regulations say that the fee shall be set on a yearly basis if it's going to be flat, and it shall be done in consultation with the assessor. I talked with the assessor, and as long as she's been in East Windsor, they've never set a flat fee. So I guess that's the long way of saying there is no flat fee. The last subdivision we approved, we did it based on the subdivision regs, which is a percentage of the value. So the regs, the way they're written right now, we don't have a flat fee that the commission's established for 2020. So I think that really the only option is to go with the way it's written, which is basically the percentage of the appraised value of the property.
Jay, I guess this extra time now in between December 8th, you and Mike could get together and have more of a detailed conversation regarding what is the fairest way of moving forward.
Yeah, we can discuss that. I'm sure we can come up with something that we're all comfortable with.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to December 8th.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing on application PZ 2020-17, a two-lot re-subdivision application, map 007, block 40, lot 001, known as 26 Rice Street. Owner applicant, Christopher Donahue. And we will continue it till our December 8th meeting, 2020.
There's a motion by Ann to continue the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Frank. Any discussion? Here or none, a call for a vote. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
I see 5. All right.
Okay, thank you all and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay. I see Terry Hahn's light turning on. I guess she all right, we're under old business. Item A, Warehouse Point Planning Study. Terry, you're up.
Okay. This is Terry Hahn, principal of LADA PC Land Planners. We are your consultant for this project. We are, as I mentioned before, heading towards the end of this project, and so there's a certain amount, and DECD is pushing to have it done quicker rather than with greater amount of time. So I've been trying to push to get you what you need in order to give us the okay to get to the next level. So I have updated the survey, which I put sent to you guys based on the comments that we received. I think it's working out quite well. It does come in, according to SurveyMonkey, at just around 20 minutes to be done. It is printable so that we can actually do a mailing to all the property owners. And I do have an updated mailing list. There's only a few changes from when we did it back in 2019, but so we have a mailing list that is available. So if you guys have had a chance to look at the survey, you can tell me to go ahead and hit that button. That would be great. So that's kind of item number 1.
So why don't we pause here? So I offered some comments, and I'm satisfied regarding incorporation. We're addressing my comments. Anybody else?
There were comments from Ann.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Good.
And maybe offline for a few moments. So why don't we take that as a placeholder as yes, and we'll come back.
Okay.
All right.
I'm online. I just
okay.
don't.
Oh, no problem.
I don't have the ability to do Zoom and go read the document.
Oh, do I have to buy you a laptop, another one?
That's what I would need. Is that run 2 laptops. And my phone screen's too small for me to see.
I got 4 screens going plus my personal phone, so I'm covered. So it looks like I'm looking off. I'm looking actually at another computer screen.
Yeah, I look at the paper of what I printed, but.
Okay. So, Ann, is it fair to say?
Go
ahead.
I think I asked if people could pick more than one thing. Some of the questions I felt like I would want to check more than one box, and I didn't know if SurveyMonkey let you do that.
Yes, it did. I changed the type of question so that it enabled me to have multiple answers. So I was able to go back and modify those in the places that you mentioned. Or in one case, I actually changed the phrasing of the question so that you could still, there was enough variety in there, you'd find an answer that you wanted. But I think in most cases, I just changed the nature of the question.
Okay, and did you give a little bit more background of why?
Yes.
Survey and why the project was going on?
Yeah, the introduction went from 2 paragraphs to, unfortunately, a whole page because I couldn't figure out how to do it shorter because there was some desire to make it a little bit more exciting to sort of draw people in.
Yeah, that's what I felt, is it was too dry.
Yeah, you know, I'm used to more facts and figures and sort of taking an even keel instead of being, you know, so.
But if you want people to spend their time reading it, you got to grab them first.
Right. Right. So I did add text in for that. I also added background information, including the sort of area that we are studying, talking about what we did in phase. One of the questions that came in was about part 1, because this was being labeled as part 2.
Right. And I had asked if you could link to a website or something that told them what that was.
Well, I just described it. I think we could probably still, I'm not really sure where the existing conditions report that we did was for this project, but mostly I referenced the, you know, sort of what we did and why we did it and why that we're at this phase.
Okay, good. Then I'm happy, Joe.
Terry, I guess we're good on that one.
Okay, good. Then I will trigger that and we can get that moving along. Okay, so that'll be a mailing and it will be, the link will be posted to survey on the website. I've been coordinating with Amanda on that. So however that goes, I don't know if it'll be directly, she's got it figured out. So that'll be great. So we'll get that in process. So then the next part is the short videos so that we can post those up on the website. I thought there were going to be 3, but there's actually 4 because they started to get a little long. And so I've posted the PowerPoint, I submitted the PowerPoints. You got 1 on Thursday and then the other 3 came in yesterday or maybe this morning so that you can see how it's set up. And the question that I have is because since you didn't really have a lot of time to process that it's really all tied into when we can have the final meeting for this. Your meeting, your next meeting, which was within the DECD's time period, is December 8th. The best that we're going to be able to do to get the videos posted and everything is going to be next Monday, which leaves only less than 10 days for people to read them and comment. And I'm feeling like we're really pushing it. If you want that to happen, then it can be done. It can be done so that we'll get comments, whatever comments we have. The intent was to, on the meeting with you guys, is to take any comments that we receive from the survey and also from the posting of the videos and present those and answer them as part of a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to be able to close out the public comment period of this, the public participation. But I think that we just, we sort of lost a week or 2 back in October. And so we're coming up against the next holiday component. And I was just wondering if this was something that you wanted to push for December 8th, or if there's an opportunity to have a special meeting either the following week or, some other time during December.
Give us a lot to think about. So I'm looking what Amanda posted. We didn't get all the video. All 4 videos were posted yesterday around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So even though you may have given a day before, they all weren't posted. And I haven't had a chance to look at that. I prepped for the meeting, but I didn't prep for the videos.
Understood, and I do apologize for not getting them done faster, but it took a little while to sort of see what they're going to look like together and figure out what part went to what. And because of that, I don't necessarily want to push this, but I know DECD is pushing on the other end. So I guess what is your pleasure in order to do this properly? Shall we give you a chance to look at this so that we can go ahead with the videos after December 8th? But that's going to mean, again, when do you want to do it? Is there a first meeting in January? We're really pushing hard. The good news, okay, let me step back for a minute though. The good news is these videos are really set up very consistently with how this report's going to work, the final report. So the final report coming after these is not going to take me as long to compile and put together. So I'm already in process to do that. So we don't need an extra 3 weeks or 4 weeks to compile a final report once we get this going. So we'll be able to chop off that portion of the project and make that shorter. But I want to make sure that you're comfortable with what we're proposing to put out there for the public before we, I mean, you guys have always been good, but you want to be confident of what it is that's going out into the public. So I'm asking how you'd like to proceed.
I have confidence in your work, but I really would like to say that the commission has at least viewed it and had an opportunity to weigh in first.
Understood.
Because ultimately it reflects on a product of this commission.
Exactly.
As a compromise, could we send each one of the commissioners home with a homework assignment? And let's say over the next week or so, if you have any comments, kindly share them with Mike, who can pass them over to you, and we can still try to make the December 8th deadline?
Eh,
Or that's not going to work?
No,
That's no.
because we could do December 8th, where if you get me the comments, I can send you the final ones back and then you can approve them on December 8th, but then I have to actually shoot the video, post it, and then we get comments back. So we got to figure at least 2 weeks after we do that in order to get something comfortable, which will put us with the final planning and zoning meeting, I think at the first meeting in January.
Yeah, so according to the schedule that we have, which was sent over and approved by DECD, the final report review and approval is at the January 12th meeting. And so the DECD made it very clear that that was the date. So, you know, we've got to do what we can to get it done before then. I know we're running out of time, but I agree that it, you know, kind of sidestepping the time necessary to get those comments probably isn't a good idea either. You know, we want to give that time for people to get stuff back.
So we have 2 meetings in December,
You have
correct?
1 meeting.
So is there a consideration of having a special meeting, not the week of Christmas, but maybe the week before? Is there any value of having that, assuming we can get a quorum together?
If you want to wait until December 8th to look at the final, you know, so that you have the final things. So then after December 8th is when I'll shoot the videos. Then it's not enough time because you only it would only be the following week. So you would only have 4 or 5 days to get comments. So I don't think that will be helpful. I think what we're probably talking about is, I don't know, could we do it December 29th?
Would it help if we committed to review your PowerPoints by this Friday or this weekend?
Yeah, but you're gonna wanna see the final versions and approve the final versions.
Yeah, but at least instead of taking a extended amount of time to do the review, to speed up our review.
Yeah, that would be great. And then I'll modify them and get them back to you so that for December 8th, you can approve and tell me go. But I think what we're trying to do is set the meeting, that the final planning and zoning meeting, that the comments would be received and discussed so that we can then close up that public participation part. That's it's all tied together.
There's got to be a path forward that's painless.
I think one of the things that probably Mike and I would need to do is to talk to DECD and let them know that this is shifting a little bit. It's sliding, you know, like a 2-week slide so that they're prepared. But I don't know. I think the week after December 8th is too soon. If you don't want to do the week of Christmas, then that leaves us the week after Christmas.
Any other ideas we haven't already heard from members of the commission?
The
So
sooner the better. Sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. Let's get it over with. Make it as expedient as we can.
So Frank, having said that though, are you comfortable of there's videos and ultimately she needs to make the recordings just to go as is without even having to, or you've already looked at them?
No.
No, you haven't looked at them. So, okay. Somebody else? Jim?
Well, we definitely got to see the videos. Like you said, Joe, you can't put it out there without looking at it.
Yeah.
But I'm also up for, if you need a special meeting, I'm available to do whatever you need to do.
I'm available also.
Could we expedite our review of the PowerPoints so that you got your comments very quickly and then add a meeting? week after the 8th, whatever that date is, to approve it?
Or how about before the 8th?
Or do a special meeting.
How much time do you need to post a special meeting? 24 hours?
But we could have just a special meeting to do the official review.
Yeah, you could do it on December 1st.
What day of the week is that?
That's a Tuesday.
One thing we have to check, I mean, if that's an option, I don't know if Jason has this, is this line available? Let's take, for example, this is his account. Maybe it's being used by the Board of Selectmen. I don't know if another board is using the same platform. So that could be a conflict.
Joe, let me just take a quick check to see what's on my calendar.
Okay.
In the event that there is, the town has a couple of accounts that we can make.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that.
Give me just 1 second.
No problem.
Joe and Jason, it is the usual night for EDC, but they have not been really meeting.
Thanks, Peg. And they would meet at 6 anyway, right?
Meet at 6, and generally they're done by 7.
So, Joe, if you want to use this line, you can go ahead and use this line. And if the EDC does meet, I'll set them up with one of the other ones that we have available.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Terry, could walk us through the scenario if, in fact, we were to move forward with a special meeting on December 1st. Can you explain to you what is expected of us? What do you need for that date to work for the town?
So what we need is for you to look at the PowerPoints, because the PowerPoints is the structure and the information. Obviously, my talking through the information will be part of the recording. So, you know, you've heard most of this before. So as you see the PowerPoint, you'll know what you're likely to already know what my voice is going to say. But if you can look at that, see if that makes sense to you, then I can, and if you could do that like over the weekend and get back to me on Monday, I can probably make all the changes that are needed for that meeting on December 1st. If on December 1st you say, okay, that PowerPoint is a go, then I can do the videos and record them. It'll be difficult to edit them, so I would have to, if there's a problem, I would have to re-record them, because I'm going to shoot them on the Zoom platform like this. You would have those available for you to review for December 8th. I do, however, the thing that I need in order to record this and to finish the PowerPoint is a commitment on what meeting date you want to have your final Planning and Zoning Commission meeting where we aggregate the comments. So I need that information now. So you have to, it's not just December 1st, but when do you want to have that public meeting that is specifically to do the final public participation part where we bring all the comments together and answer them.
So it can't be December 8th.
No.
And it can't be the first meeting in January.
That's a little late.
You're right, that's late.
Yeah.
So we're talking about yet another special meeting.
I mean, I think the 29th would probably be doable after the holiday.
Okay, that would be enough time. So I guess at this point, having a special review, number one, review the PowerPoints. Give me your comments as soon as you possibly can through Mike, and he can send them to me. I'll modify them, get them back to you for December 1st. If it's a go, then you'll tell me it's a go. And so the meeting on December 1st will be very short, theoretically. You could just say,
what action are we exactly taking on December 1st?
Would be to tell me that the PowerPoints are acceptable and that I can go ahead to the recording.
Okay, and we need to vote to tell you that?
No, just some sort of official, Joe says go.
Is
So if
there
that's the
another way
case,
of
we can
handling
go-
that, Mike, other than us meeting on December 1st?
This is not an action. The commission doesn't need to have a motion and an action that is going to be binding. So if the commission is comfortable with reviewing it independently and then letting staff know what you think, then I don't think we need to meet on 12/1 just to say it all looks good. I think maybe what we could decide is if I get, if everybody's hair's on fire, then I'll say, Joe, we might want to have that 12/1 meeting, but we don't need to meet just to say we're good. Especially if you guys are going to have to meet on the 29th, you can run all those comments through our office and we'll coordinate with Terry.
Agreed.
So
Is that okay with you, Terry? If
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
case?
That's
Okay.
fine. But can we commit to December 29th then to the meeting? Because that's going to show up on the website. It shows up within the videos. It shows up on the survey. It shows up everywhere.
29th. Look at my personal calendar. Yeah, I'll personally make a commitment to attend such a meeting if it's scheduled. And I think I've heard enough commissioners, we need a quorum.
I
I
can
can
make the
too.
20.
And
I'm fine.
and what I've heard is Jason has a couple extra lines, so that shouldn't be a problem regarding a conflict.
Okay, sounds good. All right, then that's really what I need. So if you guys could review the initial PowerPoints, read them in order. The first one, I know that I still need to do a little bit of editing because I got smarter in the third and fourth one. So I have to go back to the first couple of slides in the first one and get them so that they're all the same. But if you can look at them, see if they make sense to you. The second one is the longest. That's the one that's all about the blue ditch. Okay, so and you'll notice that it's quite a bit longer. Then get the comments, any changes or anything that you want, get back to me as quickly as possible. I will modify them. I will plan to modify that on Monday, the 30th, and get the final copies out to you. If you can get back to Mike on the 1st, which is the Tuesday, then he can say yay or nay, and then we can go from there. And then I'll do the recordings and post those for you. If there's any kind of issues or anything, you can call me for the meeting on the 8th, and I can come in, or you can let me know if there's a problem. But then we'll do everything for the 29th. And I think that's plenty of time. It'll be posted on the website. The surveys will all be out. We should be able to get everything in, because that's basically almost 30 days. So that's a goodly amount of time.
And that puts us on track for the January 12th meeting to wrap it up. Does that work?
I think the January 12th meeting is going to be the draft of the report, unfortunately. And then we'll need to be on the second meeting in January to give you a chance to review it, make whatever comments, and then the final will be on the last meeting in January.
Okay, so I'm gonna just for review, just in case, if DDCD will do review of draft, I'm just okay. We'll have all the work will have been done at that point. We're just going to be going through, and I mean the major deliverables will have been completed by the end of the year. So I think we're good. So to the extent we can wrap it up that way, I know they wanted time on their end. So if we can get it to them by the end of January, that should give them the time they had requested.
Yeah.
But no one can be sick. We can't have anybody miss. No quorums, no vacations, no hitting the lottery and resigning. Nothing until we wrap this up.
Lost my train of thought. What time of day? 6:30? Our typical?
Typical.
Okay.
That's fine.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I just opened up. There's how many videos you say? There's 5 videos. 4 videos. I have there's 54 slides in the longest one.
Yes.
So if you were to take, I would think it would take someone less than 30 minutes to go through the longest one. So
Yeah.
what we're asking for is not a huge commitment in time. I bet you within an hour, you could probably get through all this and offer any constructive feedback to Terry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that was number 2 on your list, right? You had more on
Number
your
two,
list for
correct. I
tonight?
got one more.
Okay.
So, you had seen a draft of the draft regulation for Warehouse Point, and there were comments that came in. And I believe that I have gotten most of the comments, but there's a few that slipped through the crack that I either A, didn't write down, or I couldn't read my scribbles. So I would ask that you review those again. If you have comments now, I'd be happy to take those. I'm not looking for any kind of commitment on that, but we will need one, probably for the meeting of the 29th, if that's what we're going to do. But we need to finalize that in some fashion so that see if it makes sense to you. I do think that one of the areas that is still a little bit undefined is the nature of whether or not, how you want to handle multifamily homes or a multifamily project. So in other words, we were talking about that one building at the corner of South Water Street and Bridge Street, but it could be other buildings. Would you want to see buildings, especially along Bridge Street, that may actually be 100% residential? So basically be, a residential building similar, it could be similar to like the one that's on the corner of School Street and Main Street. Things like
Along
that.
Bridge Street, you're asking.
Yeah, this would be for the Bridge Street zone specifically. So give that some thought.
Okay. I did go through and I had 4 minor comments regarding the draft zoning regs.
Okay.
I don't mean to drag this out. I could put pen to paper and send them off, or we can spend just a few minutes here.
I'd rather you just give it to me because
Okay.
I'm sure that,
Do you want to pull it up and I'll just tell you?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
Yep. This I'm sure as we go through a couple of these things, the wheels are gonna turn in other commissioners' heads too.
Right.
So that usually promotes further discussion.
Hang on, sorry.
It's all right.
But it moved. There we go.
Well, they're all posted on the town. Oh, okay. Looks like you. All right. Is that page 1?
That's page 1.
All right. Item number 2. Yeah, right there. Just to be consistent with some of the other ones, as to the effective date of these regulations, just to add an additional word, the effective date.
Okay. Yep.
Now, you use the word effective date in other spots, but
Yes. That's a standard term of art because once you set the regulation in place and you establish an effective date, that is a defined legal term. And so that would be basically your starting point. Oh, yes, I see what you mean. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and under the warehouse point, can you scroll down, number 5 right here. Oh, number 5 on that page
Okay.
1. Can you help me better understand what you mean by no parking in between building and street or any side yard? So what are you saying? So let me present a scenario. There's got to be no driveway, so no one can park in the driveway. No driveways.
No. Driveway is different than parking.
So you can park in the driveway.
The idea would be to establish the driveway so that it goes back to some sort of garage or parking area. But if the driveway is intended to be the parking area, it has to be further back than the street. Than the building, sorry.
Is is this a common, the way it's phrased, is this common in the planning language, that it's clear that if there's a driveway, you can park in the driveway?
Let me clarify that.
All
Because
right.
you don't really want anybody parking in the driveway if it's between the building and the street.
Okay, well, that's all, that's just a point of clarification.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
Could you just adjust it to say parking shall be in the rear or behind the principal building, or?
You know, I was gonna go that route, but there's enough circumstances here that I could see, I didn't want to, because the front yard is not the most important part here. It's actually as long as it's behind the building. So even if the building is 50 feet back, you still want the parking behind the building.
Right.
But let me look at how I can clarify that sentence. Okay.
all right. I got something on page 3.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that I did change the R zone references so that it was less confusing. If you remember, there was a comment last time that, well, we already have an R1 and an R2. Why are we having a warehouse point R1 and R2? So I came up with an R4 and an R5. The awkwardness to that, because one is for 1/4 acre and the other one is for 5,000 square feet. The awkwardness of that is that you don't have an R3. So you're going to be, anyway, if you can think of a different way, I'd be more than happy to consider it. But that's, I did make that change.
Although you didn't show it here, you're going to make those corresponding changes on the map? The
Yes,
zoning
I have
map?
to. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. I figured once we sorted this out, then we would know what to change. So,
All right, yep, my question's about the table.
Yep.
Under the funeral line, funeral home
home?
mortuary,
Yep.
I don't understand why in the MS2 zone, why that one's special use permit, excuse me, under the Bridge Street, why that's permitted while the other two are special use?
The Bridge Street one includes the existing funeral home on Gardner.
Yep.
That, you know, that exists, that zone. So rather than make that a special use permit where it's currently existing, I thought that we should leave that as permitted. The Main Street commercial zone, don't forget the scope of the Main Street commercial zone is strictly the box factory and the nursing home and the town property of the annex. So there's not a lot of additional room. You'd have to do something to the box factory or something like that in order to make that happen. And then under the highway zone, I just was looking for another potential location in case somebody thought that somehow Warehouse Point was a good place for another funeral home.
Okay, also in this table, the restaurants line.
Yep.
Right up. My only question is, the fact that we need a special use permit for approving of alcohol, does that trigger, should all these be special use permits, or that's an entirely separate issue?
I think that's an entirely separate issue because you could have a pizza place as a restaurant without the alcohol that you would want to have as a regular permitted use. You wouldn't necessarily want it to be a special use permit.
So what would trigger the need for a special use permit?
Just the location. So in this particular case, the idea being that in the commercial recreation area, because it's a much more intensive parking requirement than what the typical commercial recreation is, then that would require a special use permit because you're going to have to increase the amount of impervious surface associated with parking for a restaurant in that zone.
All right, and my last comment, it's on page 4. Item number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just a definition. So under retail, you use the definition of net square feet.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere under the mixed use, you talk about gross square feet.
Right. Your regulations are based on gross. So
So
I'm
are
actually,
these terms defined in both spots? Is it clear how to calculate the net?
no, I think your regulation is based on gross square foot, which is basically the outer limit.
Yep.
So I would have to come up with a definition for net.
Okay. I have nothing else. Mike, I was just going to go around the horn. Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, on the table itself, the daycare and the nursery schools, they're kind of permitted by right in just about everywhere except the highway zone. I was kind of thinking that may be something that we'd want to have a little more discretion as to would it fit along with what else is already established in that area.
Okay. All the way across the board, or just in certain specific zones?
Yeah, I would almost take it across the board. When we're talking about where we want to put small children, I think we want to be able to take a look at the area and see if it's appropriate.
Is that consistent with the rest of the board?
I think it seems to make sense.
It makes sense to me.
I know we're trying to find the balance regarding, for prospective developers, but I can't imagine that this would be an angst point for somebody who wants to develop one of these things without, I mean, they also want to do it right. They don't want to put
Right.
conflicts with kids and rest of the surrounding area.
Okay, all right. I can change that. What else?
That was pretty much it. I think everything else kind of flows all right. So I'm okay with the rest of them.
Jim, you have any comments or you want to offer those at another time?
I'm good.
Okay. Frank, any comments?
No, I'm good. Everything seems in line with me.
Okay. Ann?
At this point, I think I'm good. I'm going to give it another read, though.
Okay. And Mike, how about you? Mike D'Amato.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good for now. So, just to recap, everybody's going to send their stuff to me. So send it whenever you have it. You can call, email, whatever works, and I'll aggregate it and I'll send it over to Terry. If you have questions, feel free to reach out and I'll coordinate with her. Just give me whatever you got.
Okay.
And you have time on this one. So you can actually, this is not a rush. Okay.
But at some point, the public's going to have an opportunity to weigh in on this one too, correct?
I think it's part of the report. It's quite honestly, it's not part of the public presentations.
Okay.
I'm not sure how you want to handle getting the public to review this, because theoretically this is just a recommendation. Your process is that you have to then decide that you want to go forward with this. It gets vetted, in the various different ways, and then you would have public hearings on this regulation.
Okay. You're right. Yep. On the initial part that we're seeking approval from OPM, is there an expectation that the governing board in town also sign off on this, where the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to take a vote? Do we need to send a recommendation or referral to the Board of Selectmen?
Mike, if we had that, I believe we had that conversation, and I think the discussion was that the Planning and Zoning Commission is right. As long as the Planning and Zoning Commission says that it's okay, we should send it to the Board of Selectmen, but as far as DECD is concerned, it's not, you guys are the one.
Correct. Yeah, because you guys are the one handling the grant, and if you guys think it's a great idea, the Board of Selectmen thinks it's a terrible idea, or vice versa, everything would come to a halt. So they're going to be looking for that recommendation from you as far as DECD and OPM is concerned.
Okay. So Terry, do you have anything else for us you want to talk about tonight?
No, I think that's plenty, don't you?
No, I just put it all out there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you have your work cut out for you.
Yeah. It's a lot of interesting things. It's much more without being able to have a public meeting. It's a considerably larger effort to get it out to the public. So that's, but that's okay.
And as part of your public outreach was putting the survey out on Facebook and all that, okay. Yep. Okay.
And plus we are mailing it to all the property owners within our project area.
Okay. And as part of that distribution, are we making them aware of our timeline regarding public hearings? Or
I have an area to, I can add that to the survey. And because at the end that's kind of the I wanted them all to connect, so I can add that to the end of the survey.
And what date would that be? That would be December 29th date?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right, do we have anything else for Terry tonight? I see a lot of no's.
Okay.
Well, Terry, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You guys too. And if you can get those comments to me as quickly as you can, I can turn them around on Monday and then resubmit the PowerPoints to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we have no comments, that doesn't mean we didn't look at it.
Understood.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Terry.
All right. You guys have a good Thanksgiving. See ya.
You also,
Take care.
thank you.
Mike D'Amato, do we have anything else to carry us through to the end of the agenda?
I just wanted, I don't have anything official at this meeting, but I just like to keep you in the loop with what we're working on because I think it's important. Two things that we are kind of pulling together. We have about 60 definitions in the zoning regs now. Well, 60 uses that we list. Kennels, farms, daycare, restaurants, hotels. Well, the regs only currently define about 10 of them. And so that makes it complicated, certainly for staff, but also for people using the regs because they don't know what we mean when we use the terms and every town uses them differently. So we've been going through the regs, pulling out all the definitions and assigning them with the uses to figure out what we have to define. And I think that one of the first things we will work on is making sure that all of the regulations that we have match the terms and we have definitions for them so that we have consistency. Because that is creates a very cloudy set of regs for people that are trying to review them from an economic development perspective, but also just if you're a business owner. So we're working on that. The other thing is that
okay, can we just pause there for a second there,
Yep.
Mike? This has come up before under previous town planners, and the way it was explained to me, if there's some gray area, what they often refer to is the planner's dictionary. I forget the exact type of dictionary that is, but does that make sense to reference that document if we haven't already?
So if we were to go to court and the definition was unclear or there wasn't one, the land use judge would defer to Merriam-Webster because, your average business owner that may be running a dry cleaner doesn't have access to the planner's dictionary. But that being said, there may be nuances between things. For example, a drive-through bank is not the same as a drive-through restaurant, and you guys may feel differently about them, but if we don't define them, Merriam-Webster is going to call them the same thing. So I think it's important for the commission to really think about some of those more important uses and make sure that we are making it very clear when we use this term, we mean the following. And there's some inconsistencies with how you guys treat things like office, for example, and a business office versus a dentist office. And it's just, I think, something worth cleaning up. It's not exactly, the most engaging of text amendments, but I think it's a good investment in the regs. The other thing that we're working on is we have a lot of site plan standards sprinkled throughout the regs in chapter 8, 6, 5, and 4, but they're not in each chapter. So we have a little bit over here and a little bit over there. So there's standards that, again, are not all over the place. So what we're trying to do is we pulled together all the site plan standards and referenced all the sections, and we're going to try to combine them all and basically come up with one spot where we can say, if you're submitting a site plan, this is everything you need to have, and make sure that the residential folks aren't having to submit something different than commercial, and landscaping requirements aren't different for industrial special permit uses. Again, trying to make everything consistent, because if you have an application that's going to be overturned or you're going to go to court, it's not because we issued a bad decision. It's almost always because of procedure. And so I want to make sure that we clean up that stuff. So that's kind of what we're working on.
Okay.
That's been a long time coming, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. And Mike, you think that obviously our first order of business is to deal with the applications as they come in. Number 2 is deal with, finalize the warehouse point study. And you're thinking after that, we'll have an opportunity or between meetings to kind of tackle exactly what you're talking about. So early in the year are some goals and objectives of kind of tackling some of these issues.
Yeah, I think that, I have a running list of things that I'd like to get through. But yeah, after all of these other more pressing issues, I like to deal with the definitions, the site plan standards, which I think need to be bolstered. I think one of the things that we all kind of learned through the Silverman application is that we need regs that I think are a little heavier in the pedestrian amenities, sidewalks, benches, street trees, some of these other things that, bike racks, and, we need to start planning for what they can sometimes refer to as all users, right? The idea that not everybody arrives via car. And
Complete streets.
Complete streets, complete sites, exactly. So I want to put our foot on the gas in that realm a little bit and start cleaning those things up. So we'll do that in a small and in chunks once we wrap up all these other things.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else for tonight? Well, if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Adjournment?
Adjournment?
Adjournment.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Same to you. Thank you.
You as well.
And same to Jason and Peg.
Same to you all.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Good
Bye
night.
now.